you started out wanting to help your relatives. You ended up helping millions and millions and millions of children around the world. How did that happen, and what's your vision for where Kahn Academy can go?
Yeah, I was working in I was an analyst at an investment firm in Boston, and I had a cousin, a 12-year-old cousin, Nadia, who needed help. She was in New Orleans, I was in Boston, so I started tutoring her, and then word got around in the family that free tutoring was happening. So you fast forward about 2 years, and I started tutoring about 15 of my family, friends, and cousins after work every day. And then a friend suggested, well, you know, just to help you scale, why don't you put some lessons on YouTube? And I immediately said, no, you know, YouTube is for cats playing piano, not for serious mathematics. But then I got over the idea that it wasn't my idea, and I decided to put up a few videos, and, you know, long story short, my cousins told me that they liked me better on YouTube than in person. And I kept going, and before long, it was clear that people who were not my cousins were watching.
What's your vision for where this is going to go?
Yeah, you know, the vision has gotten more and more grandiose as time has gone by, but, you know, our mission, we're not-for-profit, is a free world-class education for anyone, anywhere. It's obviously an aspiration. It's very ambitious. But we do think with the access to technology, with the access to things like Kahn Academy, it's not just videos, it's self-paced exercises, it's feedback, it's dashboards for teachers, we can go to a more ideal situation where, you mentioned some of the difficulties. It's hard to teach at one pace, and people have talked forever about differentiated instruction, being able to cater to each student's needs, and that's very hard where it's one teacher, 30 students, and you essentially have to do that in class with a lecture. And so what we're seeing is, well, what if we did things the other way around? If we let everyone learn at their own pace, we leverage technology not to replace physical experiences, but to empower physical experiences. So that when people come to class, it's not a lecture anymore, it's interaction. It's not just interaction with the teacher, and even there it's a much deeper interaction, but it's interaction with the peers themselves. So in our vision, at minimum, hopefully a lot of y'all are already using Kahn Academy for, you know, if you're having trouble with L'Hopital's rule or something like that. Even better, it could be used in the classroom so that it can supercharge what's happening and get to a more self-paced world. And we also think it has implications for a lot of the world where people don't have the privilege of coming to great schools like this, and so that they at least get a basic scaffold of things.
Thank you. And these are all visionaries who are literally trying to change the world. And I had a chance to meet with Andrew and his team yesterday. It's remarkable. Andrew, maybe walk through for the audience what Coursera is trying to do, how you're trying to do it, and the impact you've already had.
So I think as high school, someone doesn't like me. So I think as to many of us, both those of you in high school as well as it turns out adults like me, it's difficult to get access to college level courses. If you're thinking of applying to college in a few years, maybe you're wondering what is it like to take a Princeton class or a Stanford class. And to you, as well as to me, it turns out I can't actually take a Stanford class, or I can't actually take a Princeton class. This is across the country. But thanks to technology, what Coursera is doing is we're working with 16 universities, among them you mentioned Princeton, Stanford, Penn, Michigan, Duke, University of Toronto, a bunch of universities, to take the best professors from the best universities in the world and put their courses online free for anyone to take. So if you wake up tomorrow morning and you want to sign up for a Caltech class, see what a little bit of a college experience is like, so you can do well in it, list it in your resume maybe if you complete the class, but when you apply to college, you can now do that for free. These are hard courses, in case any of you give it a shot. These are hard courses, and they're weekly lectures, they're weekly homework deadlines. If you miss a deadline, you miss a deadline. I find it hard to keep up with the work and the courses that I'm trying to take online, because I have a job as well. But I think today, those of us that live in the US are fortunate to live in an improving education system. But many people in this world just don't have access to a high quality education. And what Coursera is doing is working with the best universities to try to put a high quality education online, free for anyone in the world to take.
So much more focused on trying to give students opportunities who didn't have them before and do that at like literally no cost for free. So that's hugely important. It's also hugely important to better support teachers. And if our teachers are going to be world class, how do we use technology? How do we use online networks? We had Connected Educator Month last month in August. How can technology be used to help teachers master their craft and support each other in ways that historically simply weren't possible?
Well, I think that's it's a really good and it's a complicated question because I don't know about this school district, but I don't have any professional development days anymore. They've been cut. And so for me, if I was relying on my district or my school to, help me further my own education and refine my practices and explore new technologies, that's not going to happen on my school site. So really, what I've had to do, and what so many educators I feel like are doing, is really building a PLN, going on Twitter and following ed chats and really engaging with other people who are doing exciting things. They're blogging about it. They're sharing resources. There's one of the it's daunting, all of the technology for a lot of teachers who have been teaching for years and perfecting their craft, but there's this incredible opportunity and there's so many resources online that it's an exciting time to be a teacher. And if you can connect with other educators and really pursue your own learning, I mean, what do I want for my kids? I want them all to love Shakespeare and leave my class loving literature. Is that going to happen for all of them? Probably not. I want them to be learners, and I want them to know how to pursue learning way beyond my classroom. So if I'm going to do that effectively, I have to model my own desire to be a lifelong learner. And by pursuing my own professional development, and so much of it is free now, that you can go and you can access on the web. That has been super useful for inspiring me and connecting with the kinds of people that can help me, improve as an educator. And there's always room for improvement.
So much of what we're focused on now is this ideal of individualized instruction and personalized learning. How do you not teach to 25 or 30 or 40 students in class, but meet each child where they are, help them improve, figure out their strengths and weaknesses? How does Kahn Academy do that?
Yeah, and we've seen different use cases in different classrooms. Where we've seen it best is students work at their own pace, whether it's doing the exercises or watching videos. And what this also does is it allows them to go back. I mean, we've seen classrooms where it's called an algebra classroom, but some students are a little bit weak on pre-algebra. And in a traditional classroom, there's no way for them to go back, and some students kind of know the algebra and they're ready to move ahead to geometry or trigonometry or whatever. So this lets them go work at all at their own pace. But what's really important is giving the kind of empowering the teacher with as much data as possible so they know where everyone is. So instead of having to give a one-pace-fits-all lecture to everyone, they could say, hey, look, Billy's having a little bit of trouble with negative numbers. Andrew already knows negative numbers. Maybe I can get him to peer tutor. Or there's 3 students over there who are moving ahead and they're ready to learn this. Maybe I'll do a very focused intervention with them. And in our minds, there's a lot of talk in education about student-to-teacher ratio, which I think is obviously important. The lower the number, the more attention you get. But an even more relevant number that's obviously related is student-to-valuable time with the teacher ratio. And for us, if a teacher's time is all spent doing grading homework or handling paperwork or whatever else, and that's time that's lost from students. And the pilots that we've worked with, there's about 15,000 classrooms that have used Kahn Academy in this way, where the teachers are constantly telling us that they're able to spend 4, 5, 6 times more time with students. So it's a bit of an irony, but the technology is actually making the classrooms more human.
If I could just jump in, I just want to say too, there's such an opportunity in the classroom, like you're saying, Sal, but for those of us who don't have technology in our classrooms, I'm not in a technology-rich classroom at all, I love that there's a resource we can connect students to. So if I, as a teacher, explain something and my kids don't get it, they're not going home and then looking at a bunch of problems that they can't figure out with no support because maybe a parent doesn't have that knowledge, or that there's language barriers at home. And then really opening up students' eyes to, wow, there's a wealth of resources that they can tap into to support themselves in their own learning, which I really appreciate about those kinds of tools as well.
So Andrew, for you, the idea of having access to extremely high-quality college classes for free is mind-boggling. It's fantastic. You also have classes that 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 people are enrolled in. How does one teacher teach? How do 100,000 students have access to personalized learning we're trying to talk about?
So one of the challenges when I taught a class of 100,000 students, one of the challenges of developing classes like these is the technology. So wearing my Stanford professor hat, for several years we've been developing auto-grading and also other forms of technology to enable a broad range of courses to be offered. So for example, let's say you want to take a humanities class. Let's say you want to take a poetry class. I learned an interesting lesson. I was talking to the University of Pennsylvania head of their writing center. It turns out that if you go to a poetry professor and show him your shiny new multiple choice grading technology and try to convince him to teach a poetry class using multiple choice, he'll ask you to exit his office. So because of things like that, we wanted developing technology, like peer grading technology, where you as a student would go in, take a class, write a critical thinking essay, you would be trained to grade other students' essays, and you'd be asked to grade 5 other students' essays, and in exchange, you would get feedback from 5 other students about the quality of your own work. So very often, for many of the classes, there's a sense of community. Turns out that if you're in a class with 50,000 students, that means that there are 49,999 other classmates for you to talk to about the material. It means also that no matter what time of day you are awake, thinking about this medicine or biology or finance or business or humanities problem, there will be someone awake in some time zone, possibly in some part of the world, awake at the same time as you, able to mentor you and discuss the things with you.
2 more questions for each of you, then we got some questions via Twitter. But one thing we're trying to think about is how we better support the innovation and creativity, hold ourselves accountable. So at the federal level, the state level, local level. Helen, if you're trying to be the best teacher in the country, what can we do collectively to help you be effective in class?
Well, I think that support is key. Finding out so making sure that teachers have the support that they need. I mean, ideally, I love small class sizes. I'd love to have access to technology in my classroom. I don't, so a lot of us have to be really creative. I use cell phones because a lot of kids walk into my class with their smartphones. Some of them don't, but a lot of them do, an increasing number. And so figuring out how to leverage that technology. How much easier would it be for me to really connect them with technology, with web tools that would support them in their creativity or in their practice, in collaborative group work, if I had technology at my fingertips. So, you know, being able to have smaller groups that I'm working with, access to technology and support, that would be my wish, my ideal.
Sal, 2 questions for you. One, same questions, how can we better support where you're trying to go? And the second thing is, although there are many teachers like Kaplan who love what you're doing, there are honestly some teachers who are a little threatened by technology or threatened that Kahn Academy is trying to replace teachers somehow. So walk through first on the support side, what we do to help you continue to innovate or maybe just stay out of the way. And secondly, how do you address the potential criticism or critique that somehow you're a threat to teachers?
Yeah, in terms of what we need, I actually think, you know, following up with what Andrew talked about, the more people that use this type of thing, they're actually, it improves everyone's experience. I mean, we have 5 million people using the site, and you have this dynamic where people start to help each other. So a big thing is to literally use the site, have awareness, tell people. I mean, it's literally a free tutor. I mean, I was telling some folks that, you know, Bill Gates famously said that he uses this with his kids, and he can afford tutors. And so
quite a lot of them.
Quite a lot of them. So it's not just a kind of a free solution. It's something that people think has value, but it is free. So anyone who wants free tutoring, it's there for them. I think access is a big thing. I think that's probably the single biggest thing. Hopefully, it does look like it's getting adopted faster. Technology is getting cheaper every year, but it's not happening fast enough. There's still too many kids who don't have access to this type of thing. In terms of the perception of, you know, people, a lot of times when they think about virtual education, they think back to Amazon.com versus Barnes & Nobles, and Amazon.com is somehow replacing Barnes & Nobles, and that domain, maybe for buying books or whatever, it might make sense, but what I strongly believe, I have very young kids, I see them going to a physical school, and I want them to go to a physical school where they're having deep interaction with great teachers. And for us, and everything we do in our mission is, how can we use technology to make classrooms more human, to liberate teachers, so that they can be more free to lead their students kind of in a self-paced environment. So in our reality, it's not about replacing the physical or replacing human beings. It's actually about empowering them.
Andrew, what can we do to better support you as we try and transform opportunity for people in the country and across the globe?
So, you know, before answering that, I want to jump in on the previous one, threatening teachers. When we think about the notion of is technology threatening teachers, I feel like it's an important question, and fortunately the answer for all of us, Sound Academy, is no. On the other hand, when we think about that question, I also tend to think that's not the question I'm interested in. The reason being that, so I share with you the way that Coursera runs. Way back when it was just a Stanford research project, just me and like 3 of my students, there was a rule that I put in place, which was that whenever there's any decision that we need to make, we figure out what's best for the student and do that, and that's the end of it. And I think, actually yesterday I heard Secretary Duncan say something very inspiring, that